UFC Vegas 62. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Alexa Grasso fights Viviane Araujo. We got some solid matchups on the card. We will talk about each one of them. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and make sure to share the video as well. Let's start it off with the first fight of the night. It's Mike Jackson versus Pete Rodriguez. Somehow Mike Jackson is still in the UFC, locked out in his last one against Dean Barry with the disqualification. Listen, the pick is Pete Rodriguez. This fight should not be relatively close. You got really a full-time fighter in Pete Rodriguez versus a guy who's, in the fight game, media side, photography, and does some fighting, has experience in striking combat and in MMA. Ultimately, he should be destroyed. Pete Rodriguez should probably knock him out in the first round. Rodriguez has pretty good punching. He's a bit of a power striker, I would say, with a very brawling boxing style. Digs to the body very well. Mike Jackson, kind of like a high guard kickboxer, a little bit awkward, keeps the hands down, and then will do like really weird movements. It's not UFC level. When you look at Mike Jackson's game, it's not even close to UFC level. Like Pete Rodriguez, I know he's only 4-1. But ultimately, this shouldn't be competitive. I'm saying first round KO for Pete Rodriguez. I think he puts a lot of pressure on Mike Jackson. I think he rips him with some body shots too. Something I really like about Pete Rodriguez is the way he mixes it up to the body. Definitely a fun style, and I think a style that breaks Mike Jackson. I'm going first round knockout. Jackson will be crumbled. I'm kind of thinking body shots might start it, and then he just gets beaten on against the cage. He really doesn't do well with pressure. So we're going Pete Rodriguez, which should be an easy win. As far as the lines, Pete Rodriguez is a disgustingly wide favorite. The best line you can find for him is -649, and then Mike Jackson at +511. Huge underdog. We're going Pete Rodriguez by knockout with high confidence. I don't think Mike Jackson has a chance, and I assume he'll be released by the UFC after what should be a one-sided, one-round beatdown. Let's get to the next fight on the card. CJ Vergara versus Tatsuro Taira. I'm excited to see this matchup. We got two quality flyweight prospects here. I know Vergara's not young at 31, but he's pretty seasoned and experienced. I know Tatsuro Taira's that 11-0 record. It looks great. The pick is going to be CJ Vergara. I'm pumping the brakes on the hype train, Taira. The more you watch him, you see a good skill set and a guy that's capable of developing and becoming, contender with time. But he's 22 years of age. CJ Vergara is a good pressure fighter. He has good boxing skills. A little bit hittable, but Taira, decent pop in the hands. I don't think he's a dynamite puncher. I don't think he hits as hard as Clayton Rodriguez, who Vergara won maybe controversial decision against in the last one, but still was able to go the full 3 and had moments of success. Vergara in the UFC in both his fights has looked pretty good regardless of outcome here. Taira, first fight in the UFC, Carlos Candelario, he looks dominant in that fight, but there's moments where Candelario kind of shows that Taira is only 22 years of age. And I think Vergara, he can capitalize on that. I do think he's got the better boxing of the two, though Taira is better from the kickboxing range. I don't think he has the sting to keep Vergara off of him. I think Vergara is going to put a lot of pressure on Taira. I think the wrestling is a very similar match. Taira is probably better offensively with his submissions, but I don't see him tapping out CJ Vergara. I think we're going distance. I think we have a super competitive fight, and I think CJ Vergara gets his hand raised in a very competitive way, maybe even a split decision, but I do think he gives the one loss. The O's got to go for Tatsuro Taira. We're going with Vergara to get the upset. As far as the lines here, Taira, pretty decent favorite at -224 best value. Vergara +205. I like the plus money dog. I like Vergara. I think the line is too wide here. Ultimately, this is a pick'ems fight between two guys with a lot of ability. Vergara, the older guy, has a little bit more fight experience, but he's physically more matured than the 22-year-old Taira. Taira still, I don't think he has that, man strength yet to the next level. And I think Vergara is going to beat him in that, strength department. I do think he's got a little bit more pop with the punches as well. Taira might be a bit more technical, but I think in this fight, it comes down to the grit. And I'm going to take Vergara being gritty as fuck putting pressure on Taira, and winning a competitive decision. Ultimately, a really close fight here, and I really see this as a pick'ems matchup. We're going Dog City on CJ Vergara in our second fight of the night. Next fight on the card, Piera Rodriguez and Sam Hughes. Listen, guys, I'm going to go with Sam Hughes, Sam Page. Piera Rodriguez was taken down a bit by Kay Hansen. She's more known for the striking game. She has an okay stand-up style, doesn't have a ton of punching power, but decent boxing skills, pressure-heavy style of attack. Sam Hughes on the other side of her, very heavy grappler. Cage pressure, clinch trips. She wants to be on top. She's going to wear on you when she gets on top. I think she's going to be able to take Piera Rodriguez down. And I also think Piera Rodriguez doesn't have the sting in her punches to make Sam Page respect that power and stay off of her. That reason is why I'm going Sam Hughes. You also look at the stats. I mean, Sam Hughes is a little bit bigger, 2 inches taller, 1.5 inches in the reach. But that little bit of size advantage, I think, is a factor. And I think she's going to be physically stronger than Rodriguez. She's got more pro experience. She's more seasoned on the floor. And the grappling advantage, I think, comes through greatly. I think Piera Rodriguez is a quality prospect with time, but she's still, 29, 8-0. Sam Hughes, 30. I think Sam Hughes takes it by a decision, man. I think she can win this fight. I'm going with Sam Hughes to get the win. I like the pressure style. I like the top game. And I think Piera Rodriguez, to me, I don't want to say is overrated. It's not like people are jumping up and down about her as a prospect, but I'm not sold on her. I mean, she's got, decent enough boxing skills, but nothing jumps out the page as elite level prospect. I think Sam Hughes can get the win. I'm going to pick her here, and I'm thinking the O's got to go for Piera Rodriguez. That's 2 O's that I'm expecting to go here on this card. Piera is the favorite, -172 best value. Sam Hughes, +165. I'm going Sam Hughes underdog. I like the pressure. I like the ability to just close that gap, because the punching on the other side from Piera Rodriguez, I don't think she'll have a ton of sting, and she's not a super long girl that I'm worried about her just keeping Sam Hughes at range throughout the whole fight. She's going to have to fight her in close, and that's where Sam Hughes has an advantage. We're going Sam Hughes for the upset decision win. Let's get to the next fight on the card. Raphael Assunção and Victor Henry. Assunção is on a 4-fight losing streak. He's well past the prime. Victor Henry's the pick all day. And I mean, when you really start digging at Victor Henry, he's been a high-level bantamweight for a long time. He had success in Ryzen, ultimately gets that UFC shot against who's supposed to be like the second coming of Aldo in a sense, Raoni Barcelos, the way the commentary always hypes him up. Ultimately, Henry shut that down, got himself a quality win over a very legit Raoni Barcelos. I think he's going to be able to outstrike Assunção here. I think Assunção is going to have a very hard time getting Victor Henry to the floor. I see Henry touching up Assunção. At this point, the Assunção chin, I think, is extremely weathered. He seems also to kind of be overshooting his punches these days. I think because he's been chinned like a good amount of times lately, he's more worried about getting knocked out. It's stifling his offense, and Victor Henry will 100% capitalize on that. I think he's going to be touching him up with good shots. Another interesting note, too, Victor Henry, this is some years back, outside of the UFC, he beat who was once, that prospect on the rise, Kyler Phillips, who's still a quality prospect. Henry has a win over him. I mean, he's UFC caliber for sure, and I think he's top 15 ready without a doubt. I think this Assunção fight definitely builds him into that top 15, and he's going to be getting a big fight after this one. Solid name, Assunção, though, legend of the game, really. I think that not Kyler Phillips, I think Victor Henry is a quality pick here. The win over Kyler Phillips on the regional scene, I know it's not a huge thing, but it still holds some weight in my opinion. And then the way he comes into the UFC winning, his fights over in Ryzen, I think he's going to break Assunção here and knock him out, especially a 40-year-old Assunção. Prime Assunção at his best was 100% top 5 today. I don't even see him as top 25. I think Victor Henry stops him and does it pretty dominantly. I don't see Assunção with much offensive attack to even harm Henry. Looking at the lines here, Henry's a big favorite, -330. Assunção at +279. It makes sense Henry's this big of a favorite. Assunção's well past the prime. I would like to see it -200. I think that's more realistic, but they know Assunção is on the way out. Henry on the way up. He's not young, though. He's 35, so it's like now or never. He has to win this fight, and then he has to find himself in big spots. He's going to destroy Assunção. Victor Henry, knockout. I'm thinking second round should make it look pretty good out there. Pretty clear win is what I'm expecting for Victor Henry. Next fight of the night, Nick Maximov and Jacob Malkoun. The pick here was tricky for me, but I'm going to go Maximov still. It's just Malkoun had a really good performance against Brendan Allen in the last one, but ultimately there's moments where he gets put on his back and controlled a bit. Maximov is a tricky submission grappler, very persistent. I mean, he's going to constantly be shooting takedowns. The stand-up game is iffy on both sides. Malkoun has a jab, but he doesn't offer much else in the striking department. He's a grinder. He's not a finisher. Maximov, definitely more of that submission finisher. I see this fight being competitive through moments. Both guys probably being able to snap around, and then I think Maximov caps it off, taking the third. Malkoun, I think, weathers a bit late with Maximov just constantly applying the pressure. And I really don't see Malkoun being able to get on top of Maximov and like be comfortable there, because Maximov is always scrambling. He disrespected Petroski in the last one. That's why he got submitted. He just kept pushing for that takedown when he was obviously in, deep with the front headlock position, and kind of just leaves his neck there to be snatched up, and then he loses that fight. But I mean, outside of it, he's been perfect. Yeah, it was the Anaconda choke against Petroski in like a minute there. Maximov is tricky on the floor as long as he fights with, a fair amount of respect for the opponent. I think he clearly wins here. Malkoun doesn't offer a submission threat. He's a grinder. He's a guy that's going to wear on you. He wants to hold you against the cage, take you down, lay and pray from the top, and kind of grind out a boring decision. Maximov, at the very least, he's looking for the finish. The striking's still developing. You see that Nick Diaz Army stand-up game in him a little bit, but he's like white belt level as far as how the hands go related to the whole Diaz team. But unfortunately for Malkoun, I just don't think he offers any finishing ability, and I think Maximov will have better moments on the floor. I could actually see him getting Malkoun's back a bit. I think Malkoun will be able to fend off submission attempts. I feel like we're going the full three. Nick Maximov win by decision, beats Jacob Malkoun here, and it's a needed win for Maximov. And who knows, man, we might be seeing Maximov versus Bo Nickel sometime in the near future. That's a matchup I'm interested in. Let's look at the lines here. Maximov is sitting at -135. Jacob Malkoun sitting at +130. The pick, Nick Maximov, via decision, because I do respect Malkoun is a difficult guy to finish. Fun fight for certain here. Looking forward to this one. Let's keep on running up the card. Next fight, Mana Martinez versus Brandon Davis. You have to pick Mana Martinez here. He's still developing, young guy at 26. Brandon Davis, we've seen, I think, the best out of him in his abilities. He's an upright kickboxer, fairly quick from distance, hard guy to finish for sure. I know it didn't look like that in the last one when he came back and he got knocked out in the first round by Dana Bategrol. But ultimately, Brandon Davis is not a guy known to be chinny. He's gone distance and even split decision lost to Giga Chikadze before that first UFC exit. I think Mana Martinez is the more gritty guy, more scrappy dude. I think he's going to have a little bit more power in the hands. I could see him stunning Brandon Davis. I think he's going to close that gap fairly well and land punches. Davis, I think, has a lot of openings for overhand shots with that very upright style, and I see him getting touched up. I like Mana Martinez's constant pressure style. I like the fact that he's 26 and going to be constantly improving, whereas I think Brandon Davis, for the most part, is maintaining the skill set he has. Mana Martinez should get the win here. I'll pick him to win. A hard-fought decision, but a clear win. Martinez -147. Brandon Davis +133. We're riding with Leo Mana Martinez over Brandon Davis. Next fight of the night, Misha Cirkunov versus Alonzo Menifield. The pick's Alonzo Menifield all day. There's no way I'm picking Misha Cirkunov. He has one arm, guys. That's something that nobody really talks about. The fact that 100% the left arm of Misha Cirkunov is atrophied. He throws it, but it's more just there to grab in close, block, throws a little bit of shots, but there's not much on it. Something's damaged about the arm. I'd love to find out what it is, but I haven't heard any details on it. He still goes out to fight though, but he's fighting Alonzo Menifield, who's the better athlete, physically stronger guy, more powerful guy. Even though Alonzo Menifield's 34 years of age, I feel like he's in his prime, whereas I feel like Cirkunov is past his prime. Everybody's prime hits at different points, and I feel like Cirkunov had a good run for a while. Then he decided to drop to middleweight. Now he's jumping back up to light heavyweight. I don't think he's going to find a change in success. I think Alonzo Menifield looks pretty impressive here. I think he sleeps Misha Cirkunov in the second round. Menifield has that weird, like, rear hand hammer fist he'll do while standing. I hope he doesn't throw too many of those, but ultimately Cirkunov just doesn't have the power to threaten Menifield at all. The only way Cirkunov can win is if he puts Menifield on his back, locks up a sub. I think that's a lot easier said than done. I think Menifield, pretty good defensively with the wrestling, very physically strong, explosive guy. As Misha will look to try to grapple, so many clean shots will probably land. I see Misha falling, getting knocked out. I am saying second round KO to throw an exact round, but KO overall, Alonzo Menifield the pick over Misha Cirkunov. Looking at the lines here, Cirkunov is plus 183 best value. Menifield at minus 200. I'm riding with Menifield minus 200 to get himself the win. And I do think, impressively, I don't think it's competitive at all. Now, I got to bring up an image for the next fight that was just announced here. It is Joanderson Brito versus Lucas Alexander. This fight was literally just brought to the card today. So we got the notes, we got the study. Let me tell you a little bit about Lucas Alexander, but I'll tell you straight out, the pick is going to be Joanderson Brito. Alexander is a pretty decent rangy kickboxer. He's a tall guy for 145 pounds. Sometimes will throw spins that I would say are unnecessary. Doesn't seem to have a ton of punching power, but does have very heavy kicks. Competent off of his back, but nothing jumps out the page and like really impresses me a lot here. Whereas you look at Joanderson Brito, explosive, definitely a knockout puncher, big overhand shots. Lucas Alexander kind of drops those hands. I see Brito touching Alexander with big punches, and I actually think Brito club and subs him. So the pick is going to be Joanderson Brito to win by submission, but I think he does it with damaging Lucas Alexander on the feet. Now, ignore the odds that you see on screen. Those are not accurate. Odds have not officially been released at the time of this recording, but I'll tell you this. Joanderson Brito is going to be a large favorite against a short notice Lucas Alexander. I will assume around the minus 300 range, and he should put on a dominant display and get himself the win over Lucas Alexander. We're going with Joanderson Brito. I think he'll look pretty good. Signature win for Lucas Alexander. The last one, he defeated Jacob Kilburn, who former UFC fighter. We can quickly run through Lucas Alexander just a little bit so you guys can get, a bit of an idea of who this guy is. Let me just quickly pull some of the matchups. So you look, the Jacob Kilburn win is the biggest, legit victory of his career. Lots of regional scene fights, not great competition level. I think you're going to see a quality performance for Joanderson Brito. Brito, I know he destroyed Feely in the last one. Prior to that, loses to a game Bill Algeo. He's a pretty good fighter overall. I think definitely punching power is serious. Submission threat is real, and he's going to submit his opponent here. We're riding with Joanderson Brito to get himself the win in what's listed right now as the featured prelim of the night. We'll see if bout order changes as we get closer to fight day. But let's jump to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash the hell out of that like button. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Much love. Duško Todorovic versus Jordan Wright. Guys, I'm going against the grain. I'm picking Jordan Wright. Duško Todorovic is super hittable. And if you look at the guys that knocked Todorovic out, power puncher like a Punale Soriano who just constantly pressed him. And then Chidi Njokuani who cracks him with an unorthodox elbow. I see Jordan Wright as a guy who can land unorthodox strikes on Duško Todorovic. I think Jordan Wright will surprise Todorovic with his wrestling defense. Wright is definitely a physically strong guy. He's a very good athlete. He's long. He has a good kicking game. He actually has really good straight shots with power. He's shit with his defense. He has some of the worst striking defense in the UFC. Duško Todorovic on the opposite side, though, is not a heavy puncher. The way he's going to win the fight is he's going to take Jordan Wright down. He's going to wear him, and I think he's going to work for ground and pound. I don't think he manhandles Jordan Wright in the grappling. I think Jordan Wright touches the chin of Duško Todorovic, and I actually think he can sleep Todorovic here. I'm going to go with Jordan Wright to pull the upset off. Todorovic is just too hittable in my opinion, and I'm really feeling as though Jordan Wright's wrestling defense is going to be very capable of beating Todorovic. I feel like Todorovic has been a guy that's been fairly overhyped, and then you see the losses that he's had, and even his win over Maki Pitolo, I wasn't super impressed. Jordan Wright's a hard fight for Duško. I'm picking Jordan Wright to pull off the upset here. Looking at the lines, Jordan Wright is plus 178 best value. Opposite side him, Todorovic sitting at minus 175 best value. We're going with the dog. We're going with Jordan Wright. It's a very against the grain pick for me because normally I'm hard against Jordan Wright, but I just feel as though Duško's just there to be hit, man. When I'm watching him strike, I'm seeing the way he's coming in range with his hands. The head is a sitting duck. And Jordan Wright stunned Bruno Silva. I 100% could see him stunning Duško Todorovic. Jordan Wright for the upset win. We're calling it by KO. Let's keep on moving up the card. Next matchup on the main card, Askarov versus Brandon Raw Dog Royval. I think this is going to be a really good fight, and it is a matchup for me that was a fucking coin flip to pick. I have to pick Askarov. I'm a fan of Royval. I'll be rooting for Royval in the fight, but I have to go with what I'm seeing. I think Askarov is going to land a fair amount of takedowns on Royval. I don't think Royval is going to have the submission threat from the bottom for a guy like Askarov, who's very good with this pressure, who's patient with the attack. Yes, Royval is the better striker here. Jiu-jitsu-wise, he has a great offensive game, but Askarov is going to be very good at stifling that attack from the top position. I think Brandon Royval could have big moments in the fight, but ultimately Askarov is just super consistent with his striking too. He's not an easy guy to hit, whereas Royval is a guy that goes really wild, crazy attacks and puts himself out of position. When he's out of position, look at that Bontorin fight. You see the takedowns that were landed there, and he lost that fight. I know he won a decision, but he should have lost that fight. Askarov will take advantage. He's going to grab body locks and take down Royval as Royval looks for spinning attacks. I think he's going to land some takedowns against the cage. There'll be a lot of clinch work by Askarov, and I do think he finds himself on top of Royval a bit. I see this as a competitive fight for sure, going the full 3 rounds. I'll pick Askarov to win. I'm not writing Askarov off just yet. I know he just lost one fight, Kai Kara-France. It was a toss-up decision. Kara-France did some more damage. Askarov maybe had a bit more control there. With Royval here, I think Askarov can get a bit more control. There might be a little more damage by Royval, but I don't think it'll be a ton. I think Royval, just the way he fights is so chaotic. He's going to put himself out of position, and Askarov is going to take advantage of those moments. Askarov to win by a decision over Brandon Royval, unfortunately. Looking at the lines, Askarov minus 215, Royval at plus 215. I will go Askarov for the decision win, but my heart will still be on the side of Raw Dog Royval because he's one of the most entertaining guys in the UFC. Co-main event of the evening, Jonathan Martinez fights Cub Swanson in what I think is going to be a pretty damn interesting fight. I actually really love this weight class drop for Cub Swanson. I was worried about it at first, but of course, you know, I had to check out the Instagram. I saw how he's looking, and I think Cub's going to perform here. I'm picking Cub Swanson to win against Jonathan Martinez. Martinez is a very consistent kickboxer, extremely good low kicks, nice knees up the center, good front kicks, manages distance well. Doesn't have a ton of power in his hands, but has great kicks. Cub Swanson on the opposite side, dangerous boxer. He used to train with Timothy Bradley, the former welterweight champion, and his hands are pretty damn quality. I mean, the way he beat the shit out of Darren Elkins in the last one was super impressive to me. Very different stylistic matchup, I know. But at Cub Swanson here has the boxing edge. I think he can land more significant strikes with the hands than Jonathan Martinez. Martinez, not a chinny guy, but he was badly put out by Davey Grant. I do think Martinez is going to be cautious here and will go the full 3 in a competitive fight with Cub Swanson, but I think Swanson lands the better strikes. I think Swanson may surprise us even with some takedowns and trips, and I think on the feet, Cub Swanson's speed edge with the boxing will be the clearest of difference makers here. So we'll ride Cub Swanson to win by a decision, and I think at bantamweight, I know he's 38, but he looks young. He still, I think, mentally is super youthful and has a lot of fire left in him. I want to see what Cub can do. I think Cub Swanson beats Jonathan Martinez here and wins decision, especially as an underdog, too. The line really favors Martinez. I guess, you know, the natural 135er versus a guy who's 38 deciding, hey, I want to cut to 135 after not doing it throughout the whole career. Plus 180, Cub Swanson. Jonathan Martinez, minus 175. We're going Cub Swanson, upset win. Cub Swanson for the W. I'm ready to see Cub Swanson at bantamweight. Let's get to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. Alexa Grasso versus Viviane Araujo. Can I just say for a second, I am so underwhelmed by this main event. It's a good fight, But this is not a main event to me. And this is the problem with the UFC Apex cards. They're not worried about selling tickets. They can throw a light main event. You can throw a spoiled cherry on top of the sundae. And that's what we're getting with Grasso and Araujo. Still a decent fight, just not a main event. The pick is going to be Alexa Grasso. She's the younger girl. She's got better movement. Her hands are faster. She's very good defensively with the grappling, at least against the Araujo level of grappler, especially. I know if you look back, Tatiana Suarez submitted Grasso in the first round, but that was some years back, and that's a different weight class. I think Grasso is going to look pretty good with the boxing. Araujo, more that Thai style of striking. I think she's going to be touched up by straight punches by Alexa Grasso. Araujo will definitely be looking to wrestle. I think she'll be a bit surprised at how physically strong Alexa Grasso is and how good she is defensively with wrestling skills. I see Grasso touching up Araujo a lot on the feet. I see them clinching and being competitive. Even if Araujo does land a takedown or two, I do think Grasso has the game from the back to stifle the offensive attack from the top, and I think she can work to get back up to her feet. I kind of see 49-46 potentially here. Alexa Grasso winning a decision against a game Viviane Araujo. Grasso's found her flow at women's flyweight. I mean, you look at the 3 wins. Victory over Jin Yoon Kim, quality performance, not a huge name. Macy Barber win, quality performance, prospect. Joanne Wood win, dominant win, big name, but definitely a wash, Joanne Wood. Now she fights Viviane Araujo, who's pretty solid. I mean, I know against Andrea Lee, she almost got knocked out in 30 seconds, but then she was able to just dominate that fight throughout the whole thing. You look at the loss, I mean, it's Caitlin Chukagian. She's beaten everybody from range as tall as she is. She just knows how to win these decisions. She's got her style. Araujo's a solid fighter. Modafferi win, Montana De La Rosa, another loss, Jessica I. Alexa Grasso should win a decision here over 5 rounds. I don't see this as a main event, though. It's weird seeing it in the spot. I know these girls are, top-ranked women's flyweights. I think like the Grasso side definitely has more the hype, more the momentum. I think more the ability to potentially challenge for a belt as opposed to Araujo, who's 35. We're picking Grasso for the win. Should get herself a unanimous decision and maybe gets herself into that title picture because let's be real, Shevchenko's cleaned out that division. I know Manon Fiorot is fighting soon, but aside from Fiorot, Grasso was like one behind her as far as being next in line. Alexa Grasso sitting at -200, Viviane Araujo at +185. I'm going with Grasso, the favorite here, to get a decision win. Not the main event I wanted for this card, guys, but ultimately we still have a quality amount of action. I mean, the undercard's pretty damn good. Every matchup on the card should be pretty enjoyable. I'm happy we have fights, nonetheless. I'm happy we have UFC. We did some Glory Kickboxing last week as far as the fight companion. Now we're coming back with a vengeance with this UFC fight companion. The full card will be live for the entire thing. Make sure to tune into the show. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Keep it locked in here at MMA Experts. Tons of content dropping about this card through the entire week. I'll be doing live streams throughout the week. This week's Best MMA Bets on Wednesday. Moneyline with my boy Mike Finch on Thursday. Weigh-in recap show on Friday. And of course, as I mentioned, Fight Companion on Saturday. You don't want to miss it. Keep it locked in the channel. Smash the likes. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the picks. And if you don't have anything to say, if you just enjoy the content, as always, drop a W in the chat. Much love, my people. Another UFC breakdown. And I'm glad we came back with one, man, because I was missing UFC after, we have 1 week on, another week off, 1 week on, another week off. Now, we got some consistent action for a while. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.